Because the next meeting we started on time. And all the people that were used to wandering in late showed up late. And they knew they were late. Why? Well, Pastor, that's not that. That is important. If I cannot value your time, then I'm not valuing you. Come on.
That's true.
Come on. People that habitually show up late for appointments are showing you nothing more than the fact that they hold no value on you. So people hold no value on me. Why would I waste my time trying to speak to them? Yeah. Come on.
That's right.
And you can tell. You can tell. So organization is one of the quickest ways to stop confusion and show a spirit of excellence. It helps ensure that all the legal requirements are met. It helps ensure that the vision is kept in the proper perspective and that the avenues of ministry are open. Now, organization requires meeting with people until the vision is plain so that they can catch it and they can run with it. Organization means you're going to have to let people know what's expected until they understand what you expect. It requires meeting with people. If someone refuses to accept the vision of the leaders, others will have to be brought to the forefront. Now, organization will let you know whether someone is able to catch the vision or not. Organization will let you know if someone is able to catch and run with the vision, or whether they're going to be fighting it. Now, if you have to exchange someone and bring someone else to the forefront, it can be a time where feelings are hurt. If you're going to start getting organized and you're going to find out there's one person running sideways, and you keep saying, okay, and you keep bringing them back, and they don't want to be brought back, and you have to remove them and put somebody else in their place, you're going to have hurt feelings often. But it has to be done. If the leader has a standard or degree of expectation, the leader or the pastor, he has to be honest enough to mention when something is not reaching that standard. Now, that doesn't matter what department you're in, it doesn't matter what area you're in. The pastor has a vision for the local church. He has a right to expect a degree or a standard of ministry. If Brian is leading the worship team, he has a right to expect a certain standard of ministry, and if people don't want to meet that right, then they're going to have to find a different worship team. It's just simple. It doesn't matter if it's the deacons. If they're deacons or the ushers even, let's say the ushers are in place and the head usher says, this is what we want to do, this is the standard that pastor wants to be passed down, and the ushers go, oh, we don't want to do that, that's too out. Find new ushers. It flows right down. There is a standard that needs to be followed, it needs to be expected, and it needs to be able to move forward. Okay, it's a time of training. Now, the leader has to be honest enough to be able to mention the standard that he is expecting. It's a time of training. Never done it like this, or it's not how I'm used to it, isn't going to cut it. And that's one of the things that happen. People say, well, that's not how we do it. Now, we've never done it like that before. We've never seen, I'm not used to it like that. When you start doing that, all you're doing is showing that you want to limit your growth. If you have only done stuff the same way you've always done it, you've never expanded, you've never stretched. And yet in church, what will often happen, people start saying, well, that's not how we did it. That's not how we did it before. That's not how we used to do it. That's not how... Exactly, it's not. The church is a growing, living organism. It needs to be moving ahead and it needs to change. Now, yes, there will be some things that a church tries. And they say, well, this just isn't working. We're going to go back and try it that way until something else comes along. But there's different things that will get tried, and those that work will be implemented. And that's the way it's going to move ahead. You know, we have people go, well, we don't like the worship. Well, that's how we worship here. Well, we don't like the have to go forward to bring in the offering. That's how we do it here. Now, is there different ways of doing it? Yes. Is one of them right and one of them wrong? No. It's how we do it. That's what we expect. It's the standard we're moving towards. Now, pastors that want to bring correction or instruction may make your flesh feel good, because a lot of people like to just have the pastor come along and put his arm around their shoulders and say, hey, you're great, great, well done, pat him on the back, life is good, everything is fine. But you know, a pastor like that will normally not make a church grow. All they're doing is pandering to your flesh, and they're not giving you instruction, they're not giving you correction. They have given up their first call, which is to perfect the saints for the work of the ministry. Now that's the thing we're going to be counting on before God. We stand before God one day. Us as pastors, we're going to be asked, did you perfect the saints? Well, you know, I was going to go into, but they were just such a nice bunch of people, and we just all wanted to sit around the fire and sing Kumbaya. I just didn't have time. It's not cutting it. That's the only thing we'll be judged on. Have you fulfilled what you were asked to do? So people say, well, I don't want a pastor that's going to tell me when I'm wrong. You're in a rough place. You're in a rough place. See, everybody knows if they need correction. Now, the pastor's desire to not hurt feelings or people will make them be hesitant to be as honest or as simple or as plain as they need to be. So if you already know you're doing something wrong, you already know as pastors knows you're doing it wrong, and if he won't tell you you're doing it wrong, then you start feeling right like you don't matter. Come on. It happens to your kids. If your kids know that they're doing something wrong, and you don't say, this is wrong, you need to do it different. No, it doesn't have to be, people right away get the opinion that, oh, well, this is all strong and judgmental. No, you don't have to be. You can say it in love, but you explain to them, this is just out of line. This is not acceptable. It's going to have to change. Children know in their own hearts, adults know in their own hearts. We all know if we have done something out of line. And if we're continuing to do it out of line, and we need to get it right. And then for a pastor to come along and say, hey, this is out of line, buddy, should give you a sense of security. And it causes people to be drawn to it, rather than where people always think it's the opposite. Well, somebody tells me I'm out of line, then that just means they don't love me. Well, that's the new pop psychology. Kids nowadays can't be told they've done something wrong because it might damage their little psyches. It will damage them much more if they're not told that they're wrong when they're wrong. Yeah. Come on. So these pastors will be hindered from making the decisions that are good for the congregation because they're so fixed on each person and not wanting to hurt anybody's feelings. Now again, you're not trying to hurt people's feelings, you're trying to bring the truth of a concept. So a good leader makes sure that there's a good foundation of unity among the people that he desires to work with, even before he starts building the church. See, laying the foundation should never be rushed. A lot of times people want to rush, we want to build the church, we want to grow the church, we want to strengthen. Lay the foundation first. Your time needs to go into the foundation, because if that foundation is out of line, it does not matter how beautiful a building you build upon it, it's going to come down.
That's right.
The foundation has to be put in there first. When you see these skyscrapers that are built, one of the things they say, they spend almost as much time building underground and before you ever see anything as they do building up. First you dig down, then you drop the piers in, then you put the foundations and the rebars, and you build the concrete and the reinforcements. And now I was watching the other day on BC, what they're doing is they're putting shock absorbers into a lot of buildings. I never knew you could do that. But just in case a shaking comes, they have shock absorbers to take up the earth shaking during an earthquake. Because they're expecting the earthquake. So what's happening is all of these things are being done, and you go look at this place and nothing is happening. There's a bit of dirt dug up, there's a few machines standing around, but nothing seems to be happening. But then one day they hit ground level, and instantly you see a structure there. You come back there a month later, and you're going to have the whole structure up, basically. We need to put the foundations in it. In a church, the same thing has to happen. If you're not going to lay that foundation properly, you're going to have trouble with that building. Now, some people seem to delight themselves in trying to do things different than they would stated. They'll brag about how individualistic they are. Well, pastor said this, but I'm going to do that. All of us have, is they have not yet